We came together as a nation across cultures, across neighborhoods, across the whole country. There was no red or blue or otherwise. It was just us together with folks all around the world supporting us in defending freedom and liberty and going forward. And that's what I take from that day, and that's what inspires so much of the work here at Lines for Life in supporting people who have served the United States in the wake of September 11th. We need to apply that same kind of sense of purpose and unity and transformation to the project of mental wellness in the United States. It's Suicide Prevention Month. As many of you know, it's especially fitting to have everyone here on this important month. The bridges of Portland have been lit up to reflect Suicide Prevention Month. I hope you'll all notice that and appreciate it. It's an important reminder of the work we have to do. We need to start building the kind of mental health system that can respond to the realities of our mental wellness challenges. You know, when you break your arm, nobody says, well, I'm just going to let it go. When you break your arm, you go to the urgent care or you go to your doctor, you get it set, you get help, and you get treated. We need the same kind of system for mental wellness so that when you're having a rough time, you know where to go get help. You're not nervous about getting help. It's not stigmatized, and it's easy to get the help. And that's exactly the kind of system that I know Senator Wyden is working with his Senate colleagues to build in a comprehensive approach to mental wellness in the United States. So we are very excited about that, Senator. We stand ready to help in any way we can. Here at Lines for Life, our folks have been talking to vets and family members and those who serve. We hear from them across our crisis lines. We know this has been a particularly tough time with the 20th anniversary, September 11th coming, and with all that's been going on in Afghanistan. Our team is ready to support with compassion, with care, with respect, and to help folks build hope. We're here 24/7, 365, and ready to serve. Senator Wyden, before I hand it over to you, I have a quick note from a colleague who couldn't be here today.
Great.
Guy you've met, Sergeant Ryan Seymour from the Oregon National Guard, who's worked for us for a while now. And I just wanted to share his note because I think it's super important.
Good.
Senator Wyden and others in attendance, I apologize for missing out on the meeting with you today and getting the opportunity to share ideas on how best to support our nation's veterans. The reason I am not in attendance is because I am seeking care for myself. It has been a challenging few weeks, to say the least. At the time of reading this, I am at the Portland Vet Center, getting plugged back in after being reminded to practice what we preach. That trying to give others support to get plugged into a supportive community means I should probably do the same thing. Maybe a good reminder to others that as we do our best to care for others, we must also seek to care for ourselves with a team of people, with a community. I imagine Lines for Life will share all the various things we are doing to support people, from programs we have to initiatives we are building, but I wanted to say on a personal note something that may not have made the list. It is my personal appreciation of how Lines for Life has been checking in and supporting its own veterans. Thank you for making a point to check in, see how we're doing, not saying, so what do you think of what's going on in Afghanistan, but instead asking, hey, how are you doing? Is there anything you'd like to talk about? Is there anything I can do to help? And being willing to take the time to listen and support. So thank you for the engagement and reach out to one another as veterans and providing us the time and support to do so. That's from Sergeant Ryan Seymour, our colleague and friend here, taking care of himself and really setting the example that it's okay to get help, it's okay to plug into community and support, because we need that in order to be effective at what we do and to be there for each other. So without further ado, Senator Wyden.
Thank you, Dwight. And I think so many of you who have been here over the years knows that Dwight is not just a good host. He is, with his team, setting a gold medal example for our whole country when it comes to standing up for veterans, people in crisis. Dwight, thank you, thank you, thank you. I especially also want to thank our veterans who are here today. We're especially proud of veteran India Wynn in our office, who did a lot to pull this session together. But we're also going to today have veteran Walt Gant, veteran Locke Lotware, veteran Adam Winther, veteran Billy Dunstan. So we're going to have an NBA All-Stars of articulate advocates for our veterans. And again, we're so grateful to India in our office for constantly championing the cause. We, of course, thank our veterans who have joined us on the eve of the 20th anniversary of that devastating day forever remembered as 9/11. And we are here this morning because so many veterans across our state, literally in every nook and cranny of Oregon today, are up against a crushing combination of mental health challenges. They're dealing with special pain for our vets who were asked to fight a 20-year battle against the forces who attacked us, and anguished memories of friends who have fallen tragically in those. So often face mental health challenges when they return home and work to re-enter civilian life. That, I would point out, is true in normal times. And as we know, the last year and a half has been far from normal, with the public health crisis devastating the physical health and mental health for so many. And I can just tell you, based on the calls that are coming to our office, the conversations we have with Dwight and all the wonderful staff that he has, these punishing mental health challenges that have hit so many in our state have fallen particularly hard on our veterans. Now, when I go back to Washington, D.C. in a couple of days, we're going to be in a position to do something about it. Senator Mike Crapo is the senior Republican on the Senate Finance Committee that I chair. And we have just put out a call to bipartisan action on the mental health challenge for veterans and all Americans. We're going to want to deal with the workforce shortage. When I have been told by veterans again and again, the health care available to them is terrific if they can get it. And the challenge, of course, is that we just need more terrific people in the workforce to serve veterans. Senator Crapo and I have put that at the top of our list. We're supporting more efforts to integrate the various programs, because vets tell us all the time about running up against bureaucracy and red tape. I want to make sure that the insurance companies no longer defy the parity laws, because the parity laws are supposed to ensure that mental health gets care like physical health, and too often that is honored more in the breach than in the observance. And we're also, as part of our bipartisan effort, going to focus on expanding telehealth services across the state for our veterans, because many told me, and India in the office and others, that really made a difference for them to be able to do that. So I'm confident the Senate can and will act. And when I go out on the Senate floor and in the Senate Finance Committee, I'm going to talk a little about the terrific work that we ought to be building on that Dwight has started. Dwight has been instrumental in the national 3-digit 988 suicide hotline. And he was very, very helpful to me in passing what I think is a landmark law for veterans and others to deal with some of the mental health challenges on our streets. we were able to get in the spring $1 billion, that's with a B, to be available through the Medicaid program for programs where mental health and law enforcement work together to try to deal with these very, very difficult challenges on the streets. And I want to close by way of saying that this Veterans Day, I'm so proud of our veterans for many reasons, but I'm also very proud that they're always speaking up for the Afghan community that did so much to help them as we tried to step in over the last 20 years. And they're speaking out for more refugee services, and I just so appreciate that. And we ought to be commending our veterans right now as we think about the implications of 9/11, because once again, they've got their mind on being able to give back, and we know so many Afghan leaders who did stand up for our troops. I'll just close by way of saying that this kind of effort with the refugees is also particularly meaningful to me. My parents fled the Nazis in the 30s, not all got out. We lost family at the camps, and my dad basically got into the Army, I think really talked himself into the Army, so he could be part of the effort to drop the propaganda pamphlets on the Nazis. And much of my views with respect to refugees, and frankly the military, have been crystallized by the fact that my dad showed how important the contributions of refugees can be, particularly in terms of military service. So I think by way of Dwight and I and the staff's talking, we're going to call up veteran Walter Wolfgang.
I think Josh is pinching for both of us.
Oh, Josh is okay. But more than anything, today you're going to hear now from some of the most courageous veterans who are also going to speak about what we have talked about here over the last 15, 20 minutes in a very personal way. So I'm really grateful, Josh, for everybody coming up. And then, Locke, we'll have you next, Adam, Billy, and India in that order. And thank you all. Come on up, Josh. Come on, Regis. You have a compatriot.
I do. Been with me about 7 years. All right, thank you, Ron. I appreciate being able to talk about mental health. My name is Josh Hill, and I'm a United States Marine veteran. I come from a line of U.S. veterans who served in both World Wars, and I have a deep understanding regarding the effects this can have on families. Battles and trauma don't stay in the field. They follow us to our home, our families, friends, loved ones, and future generations. America was in a war for roughly 20 years, and this will affect us for generations to come. Many veterans are also dealing with COVID, economic insecurity, fallout of an insurrection, and dealing with a 20-year war that ended in a catastrophic loss. This can and has caused trauma that is echoed through the entire nation. To quote a news article I recently read, between 2005 and 2017, 78,875 veterans took their own lives. That's according to the most recent data from the VA. That is more than the number of Americans killed in each major conflict except for World War II and the Civil War. Veterans are taking their lives every day, and many of us are very familiar with complex PTSD and generational PTSD. Better VA funding and access to more mental health programs and services are imperative for veterans and their families. An investment in these types of programs and services is imperative for our quality and longevity of life. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Well said. And Locke.
Thank you for inviting me to speak here today. My name is Locke Litwer. I'm here today because 21 years ago I signed up for the Oregon National Guard. This was prior to 9/11. We had no idea what was coming down the pipe, but we found out fairly shortly thereafter that it was going to be a different situation than we thought it was. Much has been said about how 9/11 defined 20 years of our veterans. I have soldiers who weren't alive during 9/11, so everybody who has worn the uniform that's of my generation or younger, this has had a big impact. Now, for those who served either Afghanistan, Iraq, Africa, or elsewhere in the global war on terror, everybody's carrying a burden of some sort. We carry these burdens differently. They're caused by things we've experienced, things we've been part of, people we've left behind or lost, and it exacts a toll. So, I live in Hood River. We have a Elks chapter out there. We have a support group for veterans, and especially this last month when we all got together and we talked about what's happening this month with the withdrawal from Afghanistan and the 20th anniversary of 9/11. It's clear this is having a really outsized impact on people's state of minds, on what they're feeling, on how they think about their own role in our country's life, and the meaning of it all, and the people that didn't join us any longer. It's hard to overstate how the confluence of what we're seeing in the news today and the recollections of 20 years, how those impact folks and their well-being. I consider myself very fortunate. I had very good friends that were in Afghanistan, were Afghanis serving. I think of Habib, I think of Froggy, both of whom were with me and fought with me, and have saved my life, as I'm sure many of you have experienced. And I'm fortunate that we got them here with the SIV program prior to the bullet rule. But they have family there. There are other folks who I served with who didn't make it back, who didn't make it here, I should say, either as refugees or SIVs or as members of any of the programs. And that weighs heavily because we as soldiers, Marines, people who wore the uniform, have an ethos of not leaving anyone behind. And I speak for myself, but I think others when I say that, looking at those who we have left behind, there's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of feelings there. So, I'm really appreciative of the work that's happening here in this building. These guys, the work is so important. Having someone to reach out to in times of need is literally save lives. So, Senator, I want to thank you for your work supporting these guys, and also, it's worth mentioning the work that Senator Wyden has done and that the rest of our delegation has done to really try and remove the red tape to get our allies to safety, to help them get from Afghanistan or countries of refuge to the United States, and to make sure that they have a good settlement once they get here. I can't thank you enough. It means the world.
Locklit, we're always speaking from the heart about helping others. Bravo. All right, Adam. Where's Adam? Yeah, over there. Yeah, great.
Well, thank you, Senator, for allowing me to be here to speak. And thank you, Roy. I just met you today, but I'm really excited to hear about the work you're doing. When I go out into the community, I see lots of houseless vets. It would shock you to see how many there are right now. What's even more shocking is when you hear common tales being kicked out or separated from the military for behavioral issues that in many cases are undiagnosed mental health issues or trauma from service. They then have no support system or medical treatment to help them. It's hard for many of us to not feel discarded or thrown away. We are all vets, and we're deserving of empathy, support, and love. PTSD service animals are also a much needed and long-awaited addition to the treatment of our vets. The mental wounds that have been sustained and endured since 9/11 have been ignored for far too long, and we're seeing radicalization happening because of this. Many vets with mental health issues feel ashamed that our wounds are not physical, and that we are worried about being stigmatized by those we care about and work with. Now with the evacuation of Afghanistan, many are faced with the question of was it worth it? These thoughts can be overwhelming at the best of situations. There needs to be outreach from the VA. It's too hard to navigate the system, especially if you find yourself houseless and in need of medical care. I've been very fortunate to work alongside many veterans who want to make sure all vets are taken care of, not just the people who think they're the best kind of vet. We want to make sure we cultivate this overwhelming sense of service that many of us still feel to this day. We're an underutilized resource, and I really hope that the Senator and everybody starts tapping into this veteran population. Thank you again for the opportunity to shed light on this, and I really look forward to seeing how this works out.
Thank you, Adam. Well said about tapping the potential for veterans. So many parts of service that helps us. Billy.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Dwight, for hosting this. I think it's very important for us veterans to have a space to be able to share our stories. 20 years ago, this wouldn't have been a thing. We wouldn't have been able to get here together and share our stories. And mental health, it was stigmatized. We weren't able to talk about it. We weren't able to really get together. Again, this would have never happened. And I remember where I was September 11th, 2001. I was in my biology in high school, and I don't think anyone talked for a minute after watching the towers fall. But then I knew I wanted to fight. So I joined, and here I am 20 years later. And I'm glad that I was able to have that experience, but I know that there were a lot of people who didn't get out. It's a little hard, it's a little fresh, because I had buddies that recently died, and I'm glad that we're able to have this space to share. When I got out in 2019, I was alone. I moved from Maryland to Oregon, and I didn't really have anyone. I didn't have any of this connection. And having Lines for Life, something where I can share my story, where I can be around veterans that have the same interest as me and be able to not feel like I'm alone. It's gone a long way. So I just want to say thank you, Senator Wyden, thank you, Dwight, for allowing us to share our stories, because there are a lot of people out there that are way smarter than me at this, but I think talking and sharing our stories in a safe environment is going to be the best way to move forward. Thank you.
Billy, making Oregon proud. Making Oregon proud, Billy. Thank you. And for us in our office, it's just kind of fitting, because our last speaker will be India. And I can only tell you that when India and I talk, and we try to connect every so often about various things, might be late at night, might be 3-hour time zone, India always picks my spirits up. And many of you know, India's been dealing with some serious health challenges, and I just know she's so determined that India is going to beat this. India is going to beat this. And India, thank you for all that you've done for vets, because you do it day in and day out. Thank you for what you did to bring this together, and thank you for allowing me to have this friendship, because that's what it is. It is professional, but it's also a friendship for an individual I deeply admire, and so fitting that you wrap this up.
Thank you very much, Senator. Gosh, how do I top that? Come on, Daly.
Get out of the way.
Oh, you're fine. I'm slow, but I get there.
No, take your time.
I'm India. Daly, lay down. Lay down. So many smells. White, thank you so much. I'm so honored to meet you. I have a feeling we're going to be doing lots of work together. Senator, it's suiting that we should be here today, because I first met you at a podium doing something similar to this, calling attention to the need for more services for veterans. Good morning. I want to thank you all for joining us here to help shine light on such an important issue. As I stand here on the eve of the 20th anniversary of 9/11, I can't help but reflect on the events of that day and its impact on my life and the lives of so many of my fellow service members. Less than a year into my enlistment in the Marine Corps, I stood in the chow hall and with my fellow veterans, we watched as the towers fell and our lives changed. As a proud veteran of Operation Enduring Freedom, I know that the carnage of 9/11 didn't end there. The events that followed left me broken, confused, depressed, and full of anger. For years after my enlistment ended, my life was a cycle of drugs, alcohol, houselessness, and suicide attempts. Unfortunately, my story is not unique. I had lost all will to live. As Marines, it is drilled into us to not ask for help or admit any kind of weakness. Pain is weakness, leaving the body. Physical pain was ignored and mental pain was never spoken of. Because of this, I was unaware of any help that might be out there. Words like trauma, secondary trauma, hypervigilance, triggers, and PTSD were foreign to me. And panic attacks were nothing more than a punchline. After my last suicide attempt, it was the words of a social worker that changed the course of my life. I was diagnosed with PTSD and admitted to a 90-day PTSD program at a VA. The diagnosis, while scary, also came as a huge relief. My life suddenly made sense. Alcohol, drugs, violent rages, suicidal ideations were symptoms of a larger problem. It has been almost 7 years since I received my diagnosis and began treatment through the VA. In that time, I've achieved a bachelor's degree in social work, a master's degree in social work, and this week I bought my first home. Someone who used to be a houseless veteran. I now work with veterans every day to help them and their dependents. Imagine what our country would look like if more veterans knew that there is help available. The truth is that the value and reward from helping one veteran can't be quantified, because as veterans, it's in our blood to help other veterans. When you help one of us, it causes a ripple effect of hope that's never ending. I'm so grateful to Lines for Life and Senator Wyden for allowing me to share my truth here today and for shedding light on this overwhelming need. Because the facts are that most veterans aren't aware of what mental health services are or that they're available to them. Our country is in a state of emergency and our veterans are dying. As veterans, our country says, go. And we answer the call, we go fight that war. Now more than ever, it is our turn to help our veterans fight the war raging in their minds. Thank you.
My experience is a meeting that starts with India really ends very well when India has spoken. And you said it so eloquently. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's throw it up to questions. We've got lots of people.